Hello guys, how are we doing and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've done a spawn guide, but they have changed 6-star hill rotations yet again. This is the second time they've changed it, the third set of new hills. I say new, P1, P2 and P3 are the exact same, and as a result I'm not going to be going into too much depth of those. I'm going to keep it at a real top level basis. However, P4, which finds itself down near the statue here, I'm going to go into a little bit more depth and detail because it's brand new. It's the new hill. No one knows the spawns yet and people barely played it. So we are going to, as I say, I'm not going to leave P1, 2 and 3 out. I'm going to cover them, but it's not going to be in as much detail as you're probably used to because I've already done a video on it. If you do want the detail, check out the video on the channel. I only uploaded it when it dropped, so it wasn't too long ago. But if you want me to leave a link down in the description, let me know and I can do that for ease. So let's kick off with P1. So P1 is this club hill just here. The two main spawns are blue and pink. Blue is real hard to flip. If you spawn blue, you're pretty much probably going to be spawning blue for the entire of this hill unless your team actively tries to flip, because there's not really any alternative spawns, and the only way you will flip without controlling it yourself is for the team who spawned on the right hand side here to push you into the shaded blue area across this halfway line. So that leads me into saying, if you do spawn this pink side, if you are this right hand side of the hill when you spawn in, you want to try your utmost to not push through too far through P1, because you will initiate a flip, which you do not want, because P2 spawns, you want these back right spawns for P2. Now you'll notice a couple more spawn points on the right hand side here, and they're basically alternative spawns to the main pink spawn. The teal spawn is if an enemy has pushed from the blue team has pushed around the pool side. So if you were spawning pink and you happen to spawn teal, it means the enemy's pushed to P2 in the simplest form. However, if you are spawning pink and you find yourself spawning yellow, it essentially means the enemy team are pushed from blue around statue and pushing around this area here, and it means you're spawning a little bit further away than you would have if they weren't there. Yeah, as I say, in order to block said spawns, they're going to be in these highlighted areas, so you can screenshot this as well. The documents in my Discord, if you want a printed version of this, you can have on your second monitor or on your phone or whatever while you're playing. There is a document in my Discord which you can find down in the a link down in the description below. But in essence, if you spawn in pink, you want to try and keep your spawns without pushing too far through the P1. If you spawn in blue, you want to try and flip it as much as you can, and try and maybe push this pool area to spawn the enemy team who are spawning pink to teal, and it means they're farther away from P2. So P2 is in this spot, this little spa area here. There's quite a nice couple of spots you can be in here. But the two main spawns here are dark blue area and pink. Personally, I think the pink spawns are a little bit better because of the access to the hill. You've got a couple of big wide range of choices to you can push the pool here, which is a nice big window. You don't feel like you're choked in there. You can push into this corridor here, whereas if you're spawning blue, you're limited to these two vents or the flank around here, so you are a little bit limited by the push you can do from the blue side. But it's purely up to you and your team, whatever spawns you want, but I'm here to tell you how you can control the spawns. So yeah, the yellow spawn is the alternative to pink. You will spawn yellow instead of pink if the enemy from the blue team pushes through P2 and sort of situates himself in this pool area here, or even further up, to be fair. So if you find yourself spawning yellow, it basically means the enemy team have got pretty much control of pool, so be very careful when you run out of spawn to check your corners, because they just could be sat in any one of these corners in the pool area. Now, if you are spawning blue and you end up finding yourself spawning teal, what that tells you is that an enemy team from the pink side have pushed through P2 and are blocking this dark blue spawn in this spot here. So it means that you, again, as you're running back to P2, check your corners, because there's probably someone playing a credit corner or holding a nice little angle, watching you spawn, and as a result, they're spawning you out. It's as simple as that. It's really quite simple. My advice on this hill is to try and get decent spawns, but you almost sort of want control of P1 here, because P1 can cut off both channels of the hill. So say, for example, your pink team, you sort of want blue control here to stop enemy team running down here and getting another route of access. It means your team can focus on this area here and the little vent here. And similarly, if you're on the blue team, you sort of want to have P1 control as well, because as well as pool control, because that'll mean that the enemy team spawn out yellow and you can pretty much cut off the map from there. However, if you push up too far from the blue side and you've got no one sort of blocking this side, they're going to flip. So just be careful that if you're pushing up a little bit over the halfway line past the hill, think of the hill as the halfway line. If you split the map, like where my cursor is now, if you push up past the halfway line and you've got no one the other side, chances are you're going to flip. Moving on to P3. P3 is a really easy hill to understand. It's probably the easiest to understand because it goes back to basics. The default spawn, if nobody is blocking, is pink on either team. It doesn't matter if you spawn there. If you run out of the pink spawn and you're not blocking pink whatsoever, and the enemy team are the next to respawn, they'll literally spawn behind you. If you want to keep these pink spawns, which are the advisable spawns to keep because of how close they are to P3, you want to have someone ideally sat in any of these block spots watching. My advice is to have someone in this cut here watching the flank through this old P3, which is what it was for maybe a month. And from this position, they can see 1, the flank, and 2, they're blocking this pink spawn as well, which forces the enemy to spawn out here. So yeah, as I say, if you're blocking pink, the enemy team will spawn dark blue. And essentially what that means is once you get hill control, you just have to really look over here, get P1 control, and you can pretty much cut off this whole half of the map. However, if you have a teammate who gets a little bit over aggressive, you are spawning pink and you're blocking pink, but your teammate pushes through P3, gets pull, and as a result, they're blocking this blue area here. The enemy team actually has a spawn open up in yellow. So it's fairly simple in that the order of the spawns go pink, blue, yellow, whatever is available to whoever's spawning in. It's not team orientated. It's literally whoever spawns up next will spawn in the best available spawn. If it's pink, they'll spawn pink. If pink's blocked, they'll spawn blue. If pink and blue are blocked, they'll spawn yellow. So just be very careful. If you're either side, you want pink spawns, so it's really keen to fight for these off of P3. But realistically, once you get these pink spawns, you want to make sure you have no one pushed up pull. You just cut them off from middle, from P3, and you keep spawning them here. Bizarrely, I don't know how this happens, but if you push through P3, as I say, you'll block blue spawns, and they actually spawn even closer. So you do not want that to happen. You want them to remain predictable. So you have to pretty much just set up a P3, hold an angle in mid, and hold your irons. Now moving on to the final hill of the map, which is P4. Now this one I'm going to do a little bit more detail on. I say that, it's fairly simple. Now I've watched multiple VODs on this hill. I've watched maybe 6, 7 rotations on this P4. So I've seen 7 sets of P4 itself. So I've got a decent knowledge of the spawns just from a up-down point of view, from a bird's eye view. And the 2 main spawns are fairly symmetrical. You have a team spawning all the way here and a team spawning here in this like upper deck spa area, whatever you guys want to call it. Now, personally, I think the pink spawns are a little bit better. So you want to try from P3, which is just up here, you want to try and flip for these pink spawns, in my humble opinion, because these spawns are better. Now, the reason I've said that is because the route to the hill is a lot easier. You've got height immediately, so you can run up here, you can have top office, and you've got height over pretty much the whole hill. Obviously, they can be taking cover. But from a 50-50 standpoint, you'd rather have height here than be having to run from the low ground towards P4 here. So personally, that's why I think it's better. However, I would say that blue has a little bit of an advantage on the hill getting to P1 because it's a little bit of a nicer route from spawn. Pink has to like step back a bit, go down blue, take this route, whereas blue literally just has to run almost a straight line to P1. So that in that way, I think blue's a little better, but it's up to you and your team what you prefer. But personally, I like the pink spawns because you can sit up top office almost straight away and look over the hill, get nades over, and it's just height. Having height on the enemy, it's better than having the enemy have height over you as you run into the hill. Now, if pink spawn is blocked, the next one that opens up is yellow. So you just got to be very careful that if you do spawn yellow from pink, it essentially means that someone from the blue team has got P4 control and pushed up. So just be very careful when you're coming off yellow spawn. You're probably going to run into a gunfight if you're running directly to the hill pretty quickly. Now, if you spawn in blue, that's fine. That's pretty much the default spawn. And the only way to really block blue is to be in the hill or see this spawn itself. So it's really hard to flip these spawns. So yeah, it's quite difficult. But yeah, it's a fairly simple hill, to be fair. It's not going to take too long for people to grasp. In the most simplest form, it's blue and pink. However, if you end up spawning yellow, it means that essentially someone from P4, someone from the blue team or someone from this left-hand side team is pushed a little bit further through P4. Now, a little bit of advice, because this is a new hill. From the pink side, the best thing you can do is have someone top office looking over P4 whilst blocking pink spawns at the same time. You can then have a player committed to getting the hill itself. They can sit on multiple headies around P4. They can sit right at the top on the statue, or they can be on any of the lower steps, just using it as a heady and watching this long line of sight down here. And then you have 2 players who can pretty much go between P4 and P1 area, making sure that the enemy can't get to anywhere near the hill. They can be cutting off routes. They can be sat in DJ. They can be sat in U. They can be sat behind the bar in the club. And they can also be helping P4 if this person on the hill here gets a little bit more pressured. So there's multiple ways in which they can benefit. But yeah, essentially, you need someone up here, someone on hill, and then a couple of players just going rogue in this general area to make sure that the blue team can't get through whatsoever. However, you've got to be quite careful you don't push all the way through to this blue spawn, because you'll flip, which you don't want to do. You want to make it a really easy read for you, and as a result, you don't want to push too far. Now, on the flip side, let's take the position of the blue team. The best thing you want to do from the blue side is to try and flip as early on as you can. Now, obviously, in order to get those pink spawns. Now, obviously, if it's a little bit late, let's say there's only 40 seconds left. By the time you try and flip, there's only going to be 15, 20 seconds left of the hill. It's probably not worth doing it. So unless you can flip right away, I'd probably forget it. However, if this fails, you want the enemy to think you're coming from as many ways possible. The downside to this hill is there is literally 3 lanes. And if you're spawning blue, you're almost limited to 2 lanes, especially if they've got, I mean, maybe even 1 if they've got control of P1. So you really want to try and get out of this spawn as much as you can, get P1 control. And in their head, if you can come from as many lanes as possible, great. So you want a little bit of pressure from long, you want a little bit of pressure from mid, and if you can, have a sub player, someone who's using the rival, to push through blue and then come down the waterfall and enable a pinch from this side. Just be careful doing that. If they push through, they'd probably run into people spawning in at yellow, so just be careful if they are doing that. To check their left before coming out, and then they can progress to the P4 hill. But yeah, you want to try and get that. But essentially you want to make sure that you're coming from as many ways possible and not just coming from the 2 main directions they're going to be thinking you're coming from. And once you then obtain hill control, because it's already taken you so long, I wouldn't bother flipping. It's best to hold irons, keep the spawns, keep it predictable. Because at the end of the day, if you try and flip and you're not sure of timings and whatever, they could spawn behind you, they could get split. So it's best, as a blue side, once you sort of get hill control, just hold irons, look at offers, snake a little bit. If you want, hold P1 as well and make sure they can't get through this side. And then obviously from P4, rotate to P1 when it gets later on in the hill. So yeah, hope that's helped. I will have the document in my Discord in due course, so if you want to join that, have a look at the Spawn Guide channel in the Discord. It will be there in a document you can have up on your phone, you can have up on your second monitor as you're playing this game, and it should make it a little bit easier for you to read the spawns. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao for now.